call to order at 6. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Marcia.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Van. We have a motion by Marcia and a second by Van to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0
We have a
with one abstention.
no,
No, just
no,
5-0?
5-0. It's 5-0.
It'll soon be 6-0.
Whenever he shows up, then your quorum jumps to 6.
Thank you. Item 3, approval of the consent agenda, including a regular meeting dated in December 10th, licenses and permits, including a temporary liquor license for the Lions Club for the Firefighters Ball, operators licenses for Nathaniel Kempenick, Matt Resnick, Brandon Wasserman, and Michael Vetter, and board and committee, commission and agency reports for admin, finance, airport, library, and public works, as well as vouchers payable and a budget summary. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Ron. We have a motion by Mike and a second by Ron to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Item 4 on the agenda is public input and ideas. Limit 5 minutes per speaker. If anybody wishes to speak, now would be the time. We'll ask that you state your full name and your address, and then you'll have 5 minutes to address the board. Doesn't seem like anybody's making their way to the front of the room, so we'll move on. Item 5, reports. Staff report, 5A1 utilities.
Yeah, Rick can't be here tonight, but he's been very active in cell phone tower leases on the water tower in terms of the water. And then on the sewer side, they've replaced some issues. They had a pump they had to replace. A grinder pump has been wear and tear on that one, and then activation sludge pump also needed to be replaced. So they've been spending money and keeping the plant up and running.
Sounds good. Thank you. 5A2 library. Thanks for remembering to turn that on.
Maybe. All right. So as the end of my first full year as library director came around, I wanted to thank the library board for the opportunity to lead our community's library, the village board for their support of the library during 2024, the library staff for always having a smile for our patrons, and the village staff for all of the help and support you've given me in the library in 2024. It truly takes a village to continue to provide the best library services, and we live in an amazing community that supports our library. In December of 24, we circulated 4,095 items. We had 86 public computer uses. We had 1,347 ebook checkouts, and we had 19 new patrons. In December, we added 174 new items to our shelves, including many that are now on the 100 Classic Picture Book shelf. Donations of the library help us to add new items to our shelves and replace worn out items. And our community has always been generous in donating materials to the library, and 2024 was no different. We added 292 donated items to our shelves that were valued at over $4,800. Regular programs that the library hosted in December included Storytime, Lego Club, Get Lit Book Club, WMPL book discussion, and lunch with the librarian. I visited both Millside and Evergreen apartments with items for residents to check out. At the beginning of December, I discovered our door counter had disappeared. It is not an expensive counter, but it is important to have accurate door counts as the library needs to report on the number of library visits in our annual report to the state. While I purchased a new counter, it is not accurately counting the people coming into the library, so I'm exploring fixes for the counter, mainly buying new batteries to see if that will work first before we do anything else. Our window blinds were installed on December 23rd, and we're excited to have the ability to control the amount of light coming into the library during the day and having uniform window coverings throughout the library. Upcoming events, of course, include story time, lunch with the librarian, the WMPL book discussion, Lego Club, and chess club. And most importantly, the third annual WMPL Jigsaw Puzzle Contest is January 25th. There's still room. Come and do a puzzle with 3 of your friends. Come and do that. There's a fabulous prize package. So, any questions?
No.
Great
Thank
report.
you.
Thanks, Ann.
Yes.
All right, next up, fire.
Howdy, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
We had a busy month this month. We had 14 runs total. 8 were in the village of Osceola. 4 were in the town of Farmington. 1 was mutual aid with Dresser, and 1 was mutual aid with Alden. Run breakdown was 1 structure fire, 1 electrical fire, 1 brush fire, 6 medical lift assists, and 5 alarms. Training for December consisted of anybody that didn't meet our 12 points of catching up for the end of the year and review of our SOGs. Upcoming training, we'll be doing training with the airboat towards the end of the month here, and possibly van, possibly this weekend.
That would be really nice.
Just wanted to warn you.
Check the antifreeze too.
Anyway, preparations are in process for the 12th annual firefighters ball, so all you guys are invited. Our 1 tanker tender 1489 right now is getting a new dump chute. We went out to a mutual aid fire. The apparatus that opens and closes the valve for the tank totally broke. So we had to manually go out the back of the truck with the manual one to dump that night. But anyway, we're repairing that due to corrosion. So any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Okay, next up, police.
Evening, everybody.
Hey, Jay.
Jay.
All right. December of '24, we generated 299 calls for service, held 52 incident and traffic crash reports. We made 4 arrests and 3 criminal referrals. We initiated 43 traffic stops and issued 16 municipal citations. December, we got a couple of trainings done. Officer Tremblay attended an interdiction training, which essentially is looking for drugs and suspicious activity while on a stop. I've noticed quite an improvement following that training, so that seemed like it was a good one for him. Officer Rubin completed his taser instructor certification, which lets us certify ourselves in-house without having to go outside and make sure that we're up to date with those certifications for taser 7s. We responded to a disturbance within the village where one of the parties allegedly brandished a firearm and fled the scene. Osceola PD worked really hard with outside agencies, and we were able to identify and apprehend that offender. So it was kind of a notable call that we had in December. Otherwise, December, we had to do a lot of our community outreach stuff. We did Shop with the Cop, or Shop with the Hero, rather, where a lot of the local EMS, fire, and law enforcement agencies in Polk County all meet up at Walmart, and we pretty much take turns going around and shopping with local kids and, getting Christmas presents for themselves and family and stuff like that. And we did our Stuff the Squad, which was pretty successful this year. We were able to raise over 900 pounds of non-perishable food items, which we donated to the open cupboards. So pretty awesome. We all kind of came together for that. And I've got a training at the end of the month, so we'll be doing Copy the Copy one time. That'll be January 24th from 8:30 to 10 in January. So any questions for me?
Nice to see that Flock network used again.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So
Coffee last month was great, thanks.
cool. Well, see you again this month, maybe. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, AJ.
That was free, wasn't it?
All right, next up, Public Works.
For other reasons.
Everybody.
It's a quiet month for weather. we were thankful everyone got to enjoy the holidays. That was great. Nonetheless, we wrapped up the end of the year by ensuring we were completely ready on the material side of things. Coming into 2025, we did a lot of work on our streetlights. I think we're coming in on 20-year mark, 15-year mark on the age of those. So we're seeing a lot of corrosion. We're seeing a lot of things starting to begin to fail. So at this time, we're just throwing small parts and things like that to keep them up and running. Worked with the engineering firm, Stantec, we're currently working with on getting those quotes back out that came in very high towards the end of 2024. So I think in February here, we'll look forward to seeing some appropriate quotes for all of the streets that we discussed earlier this year and also touched on in some Public Works Committee meeting as of lately. Solidified negotiations with ABM, the Rabo sweeper purchase has been going back and forth since the expenditure was approved at 130. There were 5 items that I requested that were kind of a must do before we potentially accepted this machine. So at this time, they agreed to all those terms. Parts are on order. We're waiting, and I think we're going to get it for 120 at this point in time. So 10,000 was originally. So excited about that. Considerable amount of cleanup and removal of deer within the village of Osceola. I think we had 6 in December alone. Just a ton of deer-related vehicle crashes. So they're piling up. Tree trimming and right-of-ways continuing, and then maintenance will continue through the winter of all of our right-of-ways. As mentioned in the past, 400 public trees just within our boulevards and street sides. So we're ensuring that they're all compliant and aren't touching very expensive new equipment we procured in the last 48 months. On the park side of things, we successfully built the skatable ice rink before the holidays. So we found that to be a success, short-lived, 41-degree weather and rain, absolutely destroyed it. However, it's greater than ever now with the weather we've had as of recently. Then we continue to work on the bluff park, removing down trees and debris. We continue to stack and clean up that area. Sort of weird how we started this in November and kind of see what's transpiring out west. And this is exactly the reason why we do it. And we're pretty selective. We want to maintain that critical habitat and things of that nature, but we want to make sure the forest floor is cleaned up. It's not unsightly and prevents things from like that happening. And an excellent Light Up Osceola event. I think it was a major success. Worked very hard, working with Steve Strorshin from Polk Burnett and making sure that everything goes off without a hitch. Building maintenance, just touching on a lot of key things. We had some additional time when the weather isn't inclement. It opens up things for us like this to review, do inventory, make sure we get our fire inspection discrepancies fixed. We had a couple minor ones, so got those done. But also I was able to capitalize on every capital project expenditure for 2025. So I think at this time, every capital expenditure or project that we're looking for in 2025, we've already been able to touch on either with our current engineering firm or the one we possibly choose, then we can get off to an early start with all of our projects. Any questions?
So you have a little more than normal amount of deer that you're recovering.
Sure.
We have to be alarmed that possibly we have a serial deer killer running around, or what
I
are you
don't know,
finding?
it's a lot of different car parts.
A lot of the car
different-
parts.
Very affluent serial killer, maybe.
Todd, I got a couple questions about snow removal.
You bet.
You've been super light this year, but I remember a couple of years ago where there was some issues about businesses, homeowners not cleaning in time. Are you seeing any of that?
We are. So coming off, so those letters and discussing formally with the village board at the end of 2023, enforcing that code. Last year was so light, we didn't get much of a chance to enforce it either. But with this first one, we're out there. You know, we've given them 48 hours after the snow cessation at this point, and we took action today.
So it was a loaded question because I saw them down there working hard.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I was in the skid steer on the outskirts. They were hitting the downtown, probably close to between 30 and 40 violators.
Yeah, I did notice it was a lot of, I noticed it on Main Street because I stopped down at the post office and the guys were down there scraping the sidewalks and it looked like I'd say maybe a third of the business, well, 2/3 of the businesses seemed like they cleaned their stuff up. There was probably a third that didn't, and it was pretty packed and ugly, and I wouldn't want to be the one out there pushing it around, so.
No, we're getting after it. And,
So did we send them letters right away, or how did?
we sent that original message out in 2023, and we're sort of seeing it in just,
Chronic offenders?
chronic offenders,
Yeah.
call it that.
I'm happy to say that for you.
That's absolutely it. So,
Well, it leans into the next question did we capture the fee, the penalty thing? I know we were gonna make some changes to that. Do you think that there's avenues to correct this?
yeah,
Have you
so,
taken the steps to reimburse what we're today?
yes, tomorrow, from the administration side, we'll be writing up the appropriate bills.
Perfect.
We go by state rates for the equipment and then staff hours, minimum of 1 hour.
Sure.
So that's what will be billed accordingly to every violator that we did clean up today.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's the only way to do it.
Well, we gotta be consistent, and we did it at least a couple of years ago, and I know it caused some angst with some people, and
Well, you know what? And we worked on that, and
I don't know that there's any new business owners that don't know that this is a thing.
was this part of, and that's probably where, we could talk to, Chamber about too, is make sure that they're getting that information out too. It's kind of all working together to make sure the businesses and whatever are informed,
No, absolutely.
yeah. I don't know, good work.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't doing it. It's cold today.
It was chilly.
I suppose it's a nice way to stay warm, though.
It is.
Anyway, well, thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, building inspection.
Yeah, in front of you, you see the yearly report comparing 24 to 23. We actually had less permits, but almost doubled the permit value. A lot of it was due to some large scale building that happened. And also, if you look, we only had 12 new homes. However, one of them happened to be a 12-plex. So it was closer to 23 units rather than 12. And then there was no new homes in December, but there are a few alterations and changes.
Are the permits pulled for the other houses at the end of that street? Not Wurzer, but
Caleb,
Caleb, yeah. Is he?
we haven't officially sold the land yet to him.
Okay, I couldn't remember where that was at.
Yeah.
I thought it was
He
close.
sat on the purchase agreement for 6 months and then he reached out to me again and we renewed it and see if he's gonna sign it now.
I'm sure rates are,
Better, not,
yeah, they're better. I'm sure they're a deciding factor though.
still high, but they're better than they were in the summer.
Sure.
You can just go right to administration.
Once again, that's a yearly update from well, not everything, but some big items that staff did the last year. In the last month, last week, we met with Baird to discuss the future, or I should say the well-being financially of the city going forward. Looking at some debt stuff. Look for a report in your email this week about the PDF that I received from them. And I'll be forward to you to see what to look at. But the projections are much better than they were a few years ago. Every year, it's looking better and better and better. So we're making great progress. The financial end of it. I have no update on the Osceola Bluff, where that lawsuit sits currently. I'm working with Verizon on a different lease to create a new monopole, potentially in Oki Park for one of the light towers that would greatly increase their cell reception in the downtown area too. And it's a pole too that other cell phone companies would be able to piggyback off and use too. So working on that one, we should be working with an engineering firm and Todd on that project in February to see if they want to put one there. It's looking like Pinnacle Development will be petitioning for annexation within the next month or two. So that should be a nice development south of town. We're starting with Carrie and Tanya will be busy next month working on getting audit documents to the auditors. So that should be a much more timely audit this year than next year. And then we switched insurance to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities this year. So we've been switching that over. So that's just a quick update from the admin side.
appreciated the summary that you sent out at the end of the year. That was nice to read. Do we ever put those kinds of things in the newspaper? Can we put those things in the newspaper? Should we?
You can, I mean, it's a public
At
document.
this point, it's right here. It's reiterated in this thing. So
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a good Christmas card for next year.
I would say it's not unusual for like larger municipalities to do event style, like State of the City or something, which
Like a
is
letter
not a
from the
suggestion,
administrator
but
kind of thing, yeah.
It's not a bad idea to think about if there is a way. I mean, we do have the newsletter that goes out quarterly. I don't know how many people read those, but it is an avenue for this kind of information to maybe
Yeah.
be shared there.
Little holiday supplement.
You could do that. But I think over communication is probably the better course than under,
Neil's words of Noel. Can we do that?
Oh, good
I
one.
mean, I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. So sign me up.
Thank you, Devin. Chamber of Commerce, Main Street.
Good evening, everybody. December saw the Light Up Osceola. We want to thank all the organizers and the Public Works Department for all their help in pulling that event off. And we had retailers stay open late throughout the month of December. I had a meeting with other Main Street directors last week, and sales are kind of probably just flat for most communities our size and larger during the Christmas holiday this year. There weren't a lot of large purchases, a lot of smaller purchases, just indicating where the economy sits currently and where people's feelings are at. And that's echoed here in town. Dough on the Go was great. Shop Small Saturday was great. And then the weeks after that, it just kind of trailed off slowly as we got closer to Christmas. But we're kind of in that January doldrum right now. So, but everybody's happy and things are going well. The bid this year helped, and one of its projects in working with the Public Works was adding lights to the light poles on 1st and 2nd Street. And then we've also started to talk about next winter in working with Public Works and getting more snowflakes purchased, because not all the snowflakes were purchased. So we'd like to get 3rd and all of Chieftain included so that the entire downtown is lit. So that's on the bids agenda for next winter, not this winter, obviously. And then the big thing is the transition. So New Year brings the transition. So the chamber is transitioning into a new organization called Explore Osceola. So it'll have a three-pronged approach. Economic development. So it'll be hoping to partner with the village and just myself and others to help make Osceola and shine a light on what we have to offer and what we continue to offer to businesses that are already here, and hopefully to entice new ones to come. A focus on tourism. We have a huge natural resource right at our doorstep, but we also have historic buildings and a lot of charm. And it's something that we can be better at and do good things with. And then thirdly is Main Street. We've been a Main Street community for 27 years. And we want to continue to highlight that relationship with the state, take advantage of the resources that we get through that program. And then lastly is just community collaboration. So the chamber format wasn't working in the past. This new organization, there are no dues. You're here, you're already a partner and a member. And the hope is that we can just partner with everybody to shine a light on all the things that we do now and continue to do in the future. So we're starting to roll that transition information out. I'll be having some open house meetings to just garner feedback of what people want to see, what they like about the community, what they want to see happen, and we'll go from there. So small steps, but we're starting that transition now. So that's kind of where we're at.
Great.
So Wyatt, on top of the conversation with Todd, it would be good for you to relay to the business owners downtown that they have an obligation to clean the sidewalks.
Yep, we touch base on many things about it.
There's some that maybe need a reminder then. That and the obstruction permit stuff, because that was one of the things I thought about, because I have that same issue on my patio with 2 lawn chairs that I don't have a place to store in the winter.
Sure.
I think about shoveling around them, and then I walk down Main Street and see a lot to shovel around. It just adds to Todd's work.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
and then I think this was a topic last, like the cycle of obstruction permits and people, we're at a new year now, and I feel like there was an issue with 1 or 2 of them that didn't get them in time last year.
Those are handled in May,
Their May thing? Okay.
Yep.
Well, heck, that's
And-
only a couple months away.
and they'll go for permits in April.
Sure.
And we're aware of the 2 that you're talking about.
I'm not, I only saw one, but as I looked around as I drove through town, I literally saw the plow truck down there with a couple guys
Well,
shoveling.
I thought you meant the permit issues. I'm aware of the two permit issues.
Oh,
that-
I saw it as a big picture thing,
Uh-huh.
and it really, again, stemmed from the two guys down there shoveling. Thinking about my own hassle about
Mhm.
when I shovel and I don't want stuff in my way, and I want to get it before people walk on it, and otherwise it makes it hard, so,
Yeah, hear you.
yep, that's all.
I just want to chime in real quick on the Explore Osceola thing to one, acknowledge Wyatt for grabbing the bull by the horns on leading that effort. It's a big deal to take a chamber and try and have it evolve into the next thing. So I think a big 3 cheers for Wyatt. The other point I'll make is that it's an organization that's looking for board members. So if you have people in the community who you think might be well suited to this type of an organization, send them Wyatt's way so that we can make sure it's staffed with folks who want to see Osceola be successful, and I think and who are prepared and interested in working in those kinds of things. So sleep on that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that gets us through staff reports. We will move on to item 6 on the agenda, other business. Discussion and possible action regarding 6A MSA professional services.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I have this project update in front of y'all, and I just want to go through it. Lots of discussion items in here. But we'll start off with the AFG grant. MSA reapplied for this AFG grant for this tender vehicle. We submitted the grant on December 12th, and the total grant amount was $551,250. And the village's contributing amount was this $26,250. And this amount fit nice in the CIP project E021, which allocated $30,000. There's also another CIP project that could also contribute money to this project if we're awarded. We can anticipate the awards to be released in the fall of 25 here. So fingers crossed on this. Just thanks and lots of appreciation to Joey, Paul, Devin for your time and support. And we went through a couple of meetings and review sessions on this grant. So this was a success, and it was also an upgrade to the last application. So that's that. Moving forward to this Cascade Falls Phase 1 design update. There was a kickoff meeting that was held on November 20th, and in that meeting there was decisions made. One of the decisions was that the village will basically make decisions through the administrator and through Todd. So they have the authority to make some of the decisions. I have a few discussion items in front of you tonight that I want to just give the space to y'all to talk about it. Some of these things, we made an initial decision, but if there needs to be confirmation or if there needs to be a decision from y'all, this is the space that we can do it in. So let's start. Devin, could you go to page 66 of this packet? I think it was 66. Is the cost estimate.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, perfect. If you could deliver us there. So one of the things in our kickoff meeting we talked about was adding a water service to the park. So right now there is an old abandoned spray irrigation system for the lawn at Grits Mill Park. And that is fed off of the cafe that's adjacent to the park. So one of the things was add this lawn irrigation system, or add this water service that would serve the lawn irrigation, and it would serve a drinking water fountain. So during the meeting, everyone was in favor of that. I've looked into the cost of it. I've looked into, the initial costs, ongoing costs, and just the effect on our budget. So, I realize that we've had many discussions about the project budget and trying to decrease it and whatnot. So First, the initial cost I have listed in my cost estimate here. These two things add approximately $55,000 to $60,000 to the project cost. And as these items could be just small items, some of the costs associated with getting a water service from the highway, digging up the highway, burying the line into the park, costs a lot of money.
And it has to be done that way because we cannot have a service off the cafe that we own. We would have to own the service and have it own metered, so we're paying for the water ourselves. It's a big no-no to have a connection through another business. So that's why if we want this path, it'd have to be a new service line.
Yeah, very good, Devin. So my opinion for y'all tonight is, based on the initial cost, which I don't believe is cost effective for these two things. And the ongoing cost, there's ongoing costs with the meter and the village we build for the water, and maintenance associated with maintaining the lawn irrigation system, right? These lawn irrigation systems, they don't last very long. So could be a future headache. Just based on some of these things, I recommend that we don't include these in the project. But if there's any further discussion on it or opinion, I'd love to hear it about this item.
I'm pro-axing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Todd, do we have any other irrigation systems really in town?
Mill Pond being the closest, yeah.
Is that the only one in town though?
Veterans Memorial.
That's paid for by them though.
Yeah, it has not been installed yet either. We have one here that we've never used too, right?
That's correct.
Maybe that whole hillside there, it's gonna be shaded enough, I feel, and it's not you don't have, turf really isn't something that I would consider being natural to that area. It's gonna be random grasses and people walking on top of stuff. I don't know that you need irrigation. Sounds like a maintenance headache.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess
I
with
think
it.
Todd just about whipped his head off his shoulder, nodding up and down. And honestly, a drinking fountain, I can appreciate. We've got a drinking fountain, I think, at the Mill Pond, don't we?
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's close enough.
And the restaurant's there.
Yeah, we'll promote Wyatt and his businesses.
It's wise for discussion. There was no strong way. And cost to get water to places is expensive. It's an expensive endeavor.
Well, you got a
especially-
winterization process too every year that
And
if
the
it doesn't
ongoing,
happen, then it's,
ongoing maintenance and repair is a big headache.
Yep. Now, how long was the water
Repair
fountain
is where I was
there for commission?
For which one?
That water fountain in Oki Park?
A year.
Certain amount of time, about a year.
yeah, that's,
I agree with Mike.
Yeah, so no action needed. That's my recommendation.
Okay.
I think that's enough. My 2 cents. Yeah, we'll, according to what I see on the site, we're gonna bring in new topsoil, so maybe that will solve some of the grass growing problems that were identified also. All right, moving on to the next item. There was discussion to investigate a paved walkway that would connect the sidewalk near P-Wise to the Second Avenue parking lot. And this would just be a wide piece of pavement with a retaining wall and fence that would just create some interconnectivity to the Second Avenue parking lot and the sidewalk. During the meeting, we decided to look into it after the meeting. After the meeting, we decided to not include it in the current design, with the goal of reducing the project's cost.
is this on top of where the old milk house used to be?
Yeah, it'd be the side of the building there. I would see this as a future project for us too, so I'd recommend not going forward with it. I think it's something we need to keep on our radar as a greatly increased accessibility from the back parking lot to the main.
It's probably a great idea, but you've got a whole bunch of, that whole area back behind the post office, P-Wise, the Looking Glass, that hillside's a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that project's on the CIP for what, 27, isn't it?
there.
26,
And then
27?
Wyatt and I had a bigger picture, a bigger grand project in the future. that
I
would
feel like
fit
you
better.
fixed the other one before you worry
Yeah,
about a
let's get the
sidewalk
parking
and
lot
figure out
order
what
first.
happens.
There's a lot.
Is there any prep work that we can do though, while we're doing this project? Like that we can include in this grant to minimize future costs?
Yeah,
I mean, we have to
so
prep the site anyway, right?
I wanted to just talk about this and see how we feel about it, because that is a different property. The village owns that parcel, but it's a different property. So if there was any work to be done on that property and we wanted to have grant dollars help with that work, we'd have to basically reach out to the DNR, go through another environmental review process, and review the parcel, prove that we own it.
Yeah,
do
it's a
more
whole
work.
new parcel. It's not even the one that the bridge, that the steps are going on.
I was
So-
gonna throw out there too, you're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of surveying issues and trying to blend in with, I mean, you're building on the side of a hill.
Yeah.
And you got private property next to it. I just feel like this is a can of worms.
Yeah, it's big.
It's already sliding down half the time anyway, so
Yeah.
we don't need more
Easily, when we
sidewalk.
dig into it, we could be blowing a budget in a hurry.
Well, yeah,
Currently, it's not falling down the hill. Let's leave it.
not yet.
Currently, it's not.
Let's just pray for no more 5-inch rains.
Exactly. I don't know. I think we should stay away from it for now.
Any other discussion? That's what our recommendation is so far.
Okay.
Stay away from it. All right, so then the next discussion.
Quick question.
Go for it.
Is it one bat house?
Yep, there's one right now. Is that what my cost?
It got us an extra point or two in the application.
I think it's a great idea. That's easily one where you could start and have somebody donate a bat house. I think it's a great idea. But if it got us point, then put it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, we need to have that in there.
I was gonna say, let's find a way to put like a dozen of them in. For
A dozen.
$8.
Well, they are.
Yep, I looked at the cost there. Seems,
I'm sure by the time you put a big concrete base in and a pole and then the house on top of it, that's reasonable in the commercial world.
I mean, that's a heck of a price for a bat house. I know we could go cheaper.
By the time you put the base in and the pole.
Oh
and
my
you pay a
God,
Contractor
Mike.
for it, that's
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
livable wages.
so you had to continue, in this attached packet, there is a preliminary design. We tried to capture everything that we talked about in this kickoff meeting that was held. And I have preliminary cost estimate attached to this preliminary design. It's based on exactly what y'all see here. And after I look at the project budget, I gave a presentation in November and I was explaining to y'all that we are in a budget deficit of around $250,000. And based on the estimate I have in front of y'all right now, I'm seeing that the deficit is between $70,000 and $103,000. Give or take some of the decisions we just made, right? Xing out some stuff.
I don't see a
So
problem with
we're
that.
getting a lot closer.
In terms of financing, I see no issue with that. These type of recreation projects can be used in the TID. We're within a half-mile boundary of TID 4. It's within TID 3. So there'd be no issue with that. I currently went after another grant with WDC. And I'm still and we have $15,000 every year from the Horse Foundation that can help offset some of this too. And I also reached out to them, waiting to hear back too if they're willing to donate more money. So I feel that this is an acceptable amount. I feel that we should be able to close that gap without increasing taxes anywhere on it. So I think it's
I agree.
a good. We'd have to borrow the money up front, but it would be paid for through the TID 4, TID 3 over the years rather than on the tax levy.
Is this still with that wagon wheel design?
No, that wagon wheel.
We got rid of that.
That wagon wheel is designed concrete that way. So the overlook up top got moved and we increased that concrete into a circle area that would be a programmable space. And that allowed us to go after the grant through the WDC because that would be the Vibrant Spaces grant, allowing it to be a program space. And I know that's why it had a big impact on that of things that they could do down there for that space.
I had one question on what you have here. Did I miss it, or maybe it's not included? The other platform, the old one that's there now.
Yeah, it's not shown on this map, but we plan to remove it. Remove the stairs. We're still figuring out if we're gonna salvage the platform or remove it. So that's still being worked on. I have to have someone go down there and review it, get an opinion on it.
And Drew, we can keep that open while this is being constructed too, right?
Yep, we're gonna try to leave the stairs and the parking along Cascade Falls open as much as possible. So these steps, right here, the steps are in conflict with the existing concrete steps, so.
Right,
Once we get down here, then the path will be closed.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, the public should know, once this really gets rolling, that it's still gonna be open because, every time you close it,
We're
you
gonna
get
hear
so
about it.
much heat over this stuff, so.
You thinking like a 6-month duration?
I would say anticipate, on the closure of it,
No, on the start to finish of the
Totality
whole
of-
thing.
yeah, construction season.
You can get it done in one though. Start in March or something and be done by fall.
Yeah, unless our supplies get hung up or something.
So if you bid it out, when do you think of bidding out?
The plan was to do it in the spring, but,
So you might be a late summer project potentially.
Mhm.
Where did we land on the stairway materials? Is that an extruded aluminum or something?
yeah, so we, decided on having aluminum stairs and then having some, Dura Trek grid, which basically it's still slotted, but it's safe for pets and just people with bare feet even to walk on it instead of having like a, rough.
Like a dock
grid.
material or something?
Yep, similar to that. It's called like Dura Trek or
Yeah.
something like that. And then, this
But
aluminum.
painted, not like aluminum color.
Yep, it'll be
So it won't be like shiny.
powder
I'm
coated.
hoping an epoxy or something.
So
Or
it's like
powder
embedded
coating.
into the,
Yep.
metal.
Yeah, the plan is powder coating or some kind of paint.
Oh,
Yeah. There will be, we're planning to have some wooden accent on the railing. That was also part of the plan, Mike. Like a top cap, similar to what's already down on the stairs, to have just some natural aesthetic compared to just some metal.
Yeah, we do have a stairway ordinance. It's gotta be natural colors, I think, and
That's only the Riverway.
there you go.
it's what?
That's only in the NR 118 Riverway.
That this area is not.
Oh.
I suppose we're in a small river town. So we get to
It's
do
downtown.
Yeah, we get to do what we want. Okay.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Any
We have
other-
too many overlays in this area.
Yeah, I'm not gonna dispute that comment.
Any discussion on the plan that I proposed? I have a design revision of this plan. It doesn't affect the stairs. It affects the concrete path. There is a cost saving in this design revision, but I still have to get approval from Devin and Todd and the fire department on it. So
So are you gonna include any alternates to help us make sure it stays in budget? Like a bat house or
At this,
some electrical
at
service?
this time, I
or-
don't think we need alternates. We remove the electricity, correct?
there's still lighting at the top of the steps, and I need to investigate the cost associated with getting one lighting fixture at the bottom of the steps.
I would have that as a change order. But rest of it,
It's-
we kind of met as that committee in that day with, it was Arvid, Marcia, who else was there?
Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Wyatt, yeah, and Todd. So there, some of the stuff was talked about. I know Todd's not the biggest fan of the electric system down there.
Current one.
Just nice when you bid things out like that. If you,
Yeah, for
if you
sure.
choose to help you get in budget for just under the odd situation that you miss your engineer's budget.
Yeah, things I could envision being an alternate would be different types of railing, or maybe we need to hydro seed that riprap bank, and you guys want to just see the cost of it to put some kind of grass or plants on it. Just stuff like that that we don't necessarily want in the job, but you'd like to see the cost.
So remind me on the budget, we're good to 1.2,
Well, our grant would cover up to 1.42.
1.42, and we're estimating 1.2. So we've got a $200,000 gap there.
Yeah, we asked for the whole world, but only went to 1.
So we're in theory, you're designing under budget.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good too.
Yeah.
Good job.
And I'll just chime in and say, I'm comfortable with the TID option to develop the additional matching. I would have problems if we were to go back to taxpayers to ask for more than we've already asked them to support the project. But I think this is an excellent example of where TID financing can be really well used. So,
There's plenty of options to keep this under budget too.
Thanks, Marcia, for being a part of that committee.
Yeah. And Wyatt too.
and Wyatt.
We brought up the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
That was insightful.
Pet friendly is huge.
So any other discussion? Otherwise, I do have a board action item, and that is just to get the board's approval on this preliminary plan, because what that will trigger is a public involvement meeting that will happen in early February.
That's one thing that committee wanted, was to have some type of public involvement to look over the project, potentially looking at colors of the aluminum, items they would like to see for information purposes, and that type of information along the programmable space that we have.
I'll move board approval of this preliminary plan.
I'll second.
The motion by myself, Brad, and a second by Neil to offer board approval of this preliminary plan to start public comment. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, say no. Motion passes 6-0.
Wonderful, thank you. So yeah, more to come on that date and the time. The next part is, part of my update is a continuing of our Cascade Falls project. And so MSA has issued a request for proposal from 3 geotech companies. I have them listed here in my project update. One of the geotech companies, they requested an extended timeline. They ultimately chose not to submit a proposal. In the board packet, there were 2 companies that were providing a proposal to do 1 soil sample at Grits Mill Park. And why we need to do this soil sampling, well, it minimizes the design risk and also our construction risk. So we get to understand the soil properties. I'm assuming I do have some information of that area, the subsurface rock condition, getting the exact condition. It'll also help with cost estimating and the cost effectiveness of creating the foundation that the stairs are going to sit on. So this is why these proposals are in front of you, to get this information. My recommendation is to go with Chosen Valley Testing to perform this geotechnical work. They are ultimately the most inexpensive, and we have worked with them in the past. So
Where are you gonna put that bore at?
we're going to put it near the beginning of the steps at Grits Mill Park. So I have soil borings along the highway, along Cascade Falls Street, right in front of the park. But it looked like in the past, someone added like 10 to 15 feet of granular fill in that area. So I don't have a very good estimate of exactly what is at Grits Mill Park. So I have samples in the road, but not at the park.
So the bores along the road will cover where the stairs go to the, kind of go north and south, I'll call it?
They're just data points. It's not great data because a contractor has added fill in that area to raise the road height up, and I'm sure that road has been a historic place of development, so there's been a lot of construction in that area. So I need something that is, I guess, more a virgin spot to test the subsurface.
Where I was going with it is one going to be sufficient? Because to your point, there's been probably a lot added behind the restaurant.
Watershed.
Watershed, thanks. I want to call it Waterside. It wasn't that Watershed, but then the roads, seems like there's a lot of unique areas along there.
Yeah. So they have to drive this little cart buggy rig, and they can't get it down the park. So really, that's the only part I can drill.
Sure.
That's why I've chosen one. I also have like 10 to 15 other ones along the road. So I just didn't want to create
Historical things, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to create extra cost. With working with this contractor, I'll be in communication with them. If they're not finding something good, we'll work on doing another one. We won't just find out we did the wrong thing. So if there was other geotechnical needs within the village, this could create a relationship with someone to provide that service in the future too. So this is the end of my update. We'll move it forward to the next agenda item. That's all right, Devin, and that is asking for board action on CBT's proposal.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Chosen Valley Testing for $3,500.
Thanks, Van. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Ron. We have a motion by Van and a second by Ron to approve the the CVT proposal. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it. Item 6B, engineering services.
Yeah, last month, the board heard from the 4 engineering services that I reached out to. With that, staff, we did rank choice votes. If you're familiar with that, rank 1 through 4, where you choose. And the top 2 recommendations from staff was SEH as the first and MSA as the second. Care to have more discussion with that tonight? There are some engineers here if you have questions for them. But those were the 2 top recommendations of staff. The last year, we've done a lot of work with both of those firms, and we feel very confident of the ability to work with both of those firms. SEH slightly edged out as they currently work with Rick in the water department, and we see this as a seamless integration to have one engineering firm under roof with both public works and water.
Would this require one board motion or is it 2? To identify primary and secondary, or can the motion encompass both?
You can select the motion can be whoever you choose to be, however you word it to be. We've seen their rates. We're not entering into a master plan. We're just a master firm. We're just entering into a new contract with an engineering firm. So it can be however you want to word it tonight.
Okay, I'll move that we select SEH as primary with MSA as secondary. Thank you for putting together a recommendation that's well thought out and recommended according to a thorough process, ranked choice voting.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Van. The motion by myself and a second by Van to select SEH with a designation of MSA as secondary. Any discussion?
Yeah. If I recall, there was a whole slew of services and fees that were identified. And then I'm going back on memory, but I don't know that we had any projects necessarily identified that we could really put a quantitative say like, we're definitely going to need these and this is going to be the best firm towards it. And I felt like we left that conversation with more of a, we want to go this route, but no real reason why. So I'm still confused why we're agreeing to anything. Like it doesn't feel like it was a true solicitation for a quantitative measurable task. And that's back to the procurement thing where I'm confused what we're actually agreeing to. And if we truly do, if there's nothing stopping us from going with another firm because maybe they're expert in that new topic that we're going to see in 6 months, then why are we making an agreement to go to point one direction? I'm confused by the whole process.
This is not something I have to go to board approval for in the first place. I can at willing choose topics I want to. This is including the board in the decision to give them the voice of who we feel we should be leading our street projects with our water projects and all that. So I was given the voice to the board on this choice of who they feel they're comfortable working with. In terms of prices, SEH happened to be the lowest on many of the rates for engineers, for assistants, for surveying. The most expensive one actually for a lot of the services was Cedar Corp. That was kind of the deciding factor with Cedar Corp of how expensive they were. So that's kind of what we all looked at. In terms of services, I wouldn't have to go to the board, but I'm looking for just an overall. And if you want to enter into a master agreement, you can. At this time, though, I still feel it's best that we just kind of work with one engineering firm on this stuff and allowing the board to have a choice of who they would like to continue working with.
And you were here for the interviews, basically, all 3 of the companies. So what did you take out of that? I mean, I've learned.
I actually thought there was 2 or 3 firms, and I've worked with them on a professional level
Right.
before also, and I think there's value in all of them.
Sure.
And if we don't have a defined master agreement, and we can choose to vary from this, why are we doing anything?
Well, you wonder, like, is it like a commitment? Is that what you're,
Sure, but that doesn't, how do you write that
like a
in?
retainer?
Yeah, I get
almost,
it.
You know,
I'm sure.
I'd
But
view it more as an endorsement, board endorsement.
Is that an actionable item? Do we need to do something with it?
It's an action that the board can take.
Sure. I don't see the value in it. That's my comment. I'm good
Fair
with
enough.
that. You can call her to vote if you want.
No, I
Yeah, I'm looking for board guidance on
understand that
this. If board, you guys have an opinion on it, we'd love to hear it. Because these are the engineers you'll be talking to and asking questions to also.
and there's more projects coming that we're gonna need. And, you know, I feel comfortable just knowing that we've got some good engineer firms, and I don't think their feelings are gonna get hurt by this decision. I don't think they're.
I don't want to see our hands tied. I think SEH is great. I think the other organizations are great too. There might be a really good reason to go back to one of the other ones on a particular project, and we're steering ourselves down a path to not do that. So I'm still good.
Maybe, but what if we get caught into the bidding war of engineer firms?
I don't know how that would happen.
Kind of scares me in a way.
I don't know how it could come to fruition to be a bidding war when we solicit RFQs for engineering.
Mhm.
I think would be the right acronym. It's a best value approval process. How can it be a bidding war when we're selecting on
And they're
something?
going by what the information we're providing them to.
I guess I interpret this as the board saying our guidance to administration is on a primary level, talk with SEH first. If you feel that SEH is not well positioned to complete a project, then we encourage you to look at MSA. But of course, we retain the right to pick anybody that we want to do for any project. And if we feel that there's some specialty firm from Washington State or somebody who can do something better, then we can do that. But I guess I think given the amount of interaction and time this board spends talking with and about engineers and their projects, I can understand providing some level of directional guidance around who we think we would like to use as a primary resource. I also remember during those conversations, there was a fair amount of emphasis put on relationship building, which I defer to the team for knowing the value of that. But I don't interpret this as us saying we will only use SEH by any means. I think we're just saying primary engineers, SEH, if there is somebody that we feel can do the project better, or when we go out to request pricing, SEH can tell us their price and other people can tell us their price. And we can have that kind of conversation on a project by
I feel like
project basis.
if Kim was here, he would point to chapter 9. And if why do we add language that's not necessary? In the comprehensive plan, there was all this extra language that was undefinable and unquantitative, and now we're doing the same thing.
Kind of like our procurement.
Yes, I was gonna leave that one
Kinda
alone
gives you
because I'm
that-
gonna
no,
beat that
well,
up in a little
You know,
bit.
we can talk, you know, it's sort of the same.
Yeah.
But in the end, we have the decision as a board to, you know, go the route we feel that is proper and necessary.
Marcia?
I think that if our department heads, I mean, if nothing else, if all costs are the same, our department heads feel like SEH is who we should work with right now because it's more seamless and they should be the primary. We should do that if all things are equal. Like was stated out by Neil, we can go with anybody we choose to for any project, you know, down the road if things mismatch, but I have no problem recommending one primary one at this point.
Anybody else have any discussion? All right, so we have a motion on the floor to recommend board approval or board recommendation of SEH as primary with identifying MSA as secondary. And it's been seconded. Discussion is ended. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
Nate?
Motion passes 5-1. Next item on the agenda, 6C, Resolution 25-01, affirmation of Paul Elstrom as fire chief.
He's on a call.
Yeah, so we'll swear him in next, tomorrow or the next day, in Carrie's office. So, yeah, the fire and, the public safety committee met and recommended Paul for fire chief for a 2-year term.
We can still take action in his absence, correct?
Yep, because the swearing is going to happen at Carrie's office. So tonight's just accepting the resolution.
I will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
I will make that motion.
I will
Thanks.
second it.
All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Van. We have a motion by Mike and a second by Van to adopt Resolution 2501, affirming Paul Elfstrom as fire chief. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, 6D, procurement policy update.
Speak of the,
I'm just going to say, Mike, take it over.
We're gonna write an ordinance, we need to follow it. And if it isn't working, then we need to change it. And I don't know that it's been around long enough to decide whether it's working or not. I'd love to see us try to follow it. I didn't get a chance to look up the ordinance or the state statute in here, but it's, we're doing the constituents a disservice by not doing it. So.
this is, I mean, you just check it out. It's really good.
I know it is.
Okay.
I wish we'd follow it.
Well, okay, normally we do, but you know, at the very end, again, we have,
No, Van, I'm not, it's fine.
no,
We wrote an ordinance, we need to follow it.
I want you to be
It's the same
comfortable,
with
just like
every
anybody
ordinance.
else has the same question,
It's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
but it's up to us to ensure that, you know, it's being followed. But when things happen and it's thrown in our face that we have the money, it's not like we went and borrowed, you know, we didn't go way beyond. And I understand what you're saying. And sometimes you have to have that.
If we need some more
Little bit of
latitude, then we
little
should
latitude.
write it in there.
And so
Like what?
this is what this does here. This gives us the ability, the last one did too for special services, for contracted services. I felt we never strayed from the old procurement policy. The only issue, the big issue with the former one was purchase orders. We've never done purchase orders in the history of the city. I thought it would save us some time. Unfortunately, it was a terrible idea and it should never been included in the policy to begin with. So that hence why we create a new procurement policy without the purchase order included with it, and given more autonomy to budgeted items that we've already gone after that do not need to follow state law when it comes to procurement. Whether that, because most of the vehicles we select are already selected through state bid processes. A lot of the items we already buy are already selected through state bid processes. The big issue came down to everyday items Rick uses, such as his chemicals that would be $12,000, $15,000 a time that he buys. There's only one. So items that are one source, such as those chemicals, you have the ability just to go and purchase them because you're not going to find 3 bids. So this is really, really making it easier to identify those items and not creating more red tape for us to follow, while still keeping us adhering to state law when it comes to larger purchases for stuff that's not included on state bid, and then construction overall.
I think there's 4 items that come to mind that we bought in the time that I've been sitting here at this desk. There's some lawn equipment, there was an ATV, there's at least 1 vehicle and a street sweeper. And I know at least 1 or 2 of them occurred after this.
Street sweeper is a special equipment that's not adhered to a procurement policy. Todd got the quotes for all the vehicles that you mentioned.
When I think of a procurement policy, when you're soliciting 3 bids, which I think is the policy that falls under in here, or the level, is you're going to send out something that's got a criteria that you could get multiple bids out of. I don't know that we did that. Again, it's a value to, back to Wyatt, if all of a sudden we had an implement or a car dealer or something that came into town here, it would be good to give them, let's say we had 2, let's write it so that they can be competing on par with each other. And I don't know that that's happening. And I'm trying to, it's just like the ordinances and that we ran into with the bluff. One of these days it's going to bite us. And I can appreciate some flexibility, not against it. And it may be a situation, because I've ran across this at work. If you're out there looking for a piece of equipment, you might not get 3 bids, but at least we tried. And then somebody comes back and says, hey, you didn't try. Well, we did. We only got 2. Well, then there should be something in here to do that. But right now, I'm not seeing us do it. So we can talk about it. I don't know I don't know what kind of action we could take on it. But if we don't follow it and something comes up for a budget item to purchase, I'm going to vote no every time unless I can see that we're following this. It doesn't mean that it's not a great purchase. I don't know that the street sweeper fell under emergency.
It's not emergency, it's a piece of equipment, specialized equipment.
I get it, but to me, it should have fallen underneath the bid process. So I don't need to talk anymore about it.
Is there action needed from us to approve the new policy changes?
That's the recommendation from the Admin Finance Committee.
Do you have issues with the new policy changes?
I know, as long as we follow it. I guess I'd have to look to see what, I don't know that emergency is definable in here. What kind of things could be shoehorned into it.
It means I can make purchases, but I have, at the next board meeting, I have to explain why I did it.
To me, I don't have a problem with the new provisions to the degree to which I've looked at them. I think that I recognize that the threshold went up under the new policy where informal procurement is allowed, and I understand the reasons for that. I think that makes sense. And I think for the $7,500 to $25,000, we are requiring a minimum of 3 quotes, and then I'm unsure the procedures in a formal competitive bidding process, but it sounds like that's probably fairly well outlined for things over $25,000.
That'd be like the payment process that Todd's doing the next month. There'll be, Ansel's writing a bid document for that they would follow and then submit the bids that way.
Yeah. And I guess I want to just say, I think for the benefit of any public here, that I think the public should have confidence that the staff and the board in the village have a very clear sense of what money is being spent and a very clear approval process that's in place. And I think nobody on the board is taking, if we take that street sweeper as an example, I think that Todd has a very good grip on what equipment costs. And if there are deals that come up, I think that we're always acting with the best interests of taxpayers in mind, even if there are moments when we consider revisions or we circumvent our own policies. It's being done in an effort to protect taxpayers. And so I just wanted to, I think, state that for the record. I don't have any problem with this new policy. I think it should be adopted.
To piggyback off that, department heads are well aware that, these items are already budgeted for. They need to get them at the lowest possible price because otherwise they're over budget, right? And that just takes something away from something else they might need somewhere else. So to add to what you're saying, I couldn't agree more that they're very aware and seek the lowest price whenever possible.
And it's, to your point, it's in their own self-interest to seek the lowest price for their own budget's sake. And I think that's smart fiscal management.
And this policy also comes in for items, I know for like body cams. AJ wants to go with Axon, which is a much better company than the current company they have. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's allowing him to choose the company that he knows is going to provide best coverage.
I would make a motion to adopt the policy updates for procurement policy.
Thank you, Marcia. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Marcia and a second by Mike to adopt the updates to the procurement policy. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Item 6E, Verizon lease.
Yes, I've been helping Rick a little bit on this one, but I'm gonna give Rick all the credit for this. He's been working his butt off on this since last March. We've involved SEH to help us with the talk about the contract of what it could be with Verizon. We've had Paul Mahler, our attorney, look over this also. This is a great improvement over our prior lease with Verizon. This gives us some protections. The old one didn't. This increased the price significantly, and it allows Verizon to continue operating on the water tower, which we greatly need to. So I feel that without any hesitation, I recommend that we vote to approve this contract with lease agreement with Verizon.
Is Verizon only on that one tower?
Yes, they're currently only on the tower out there. They lease land from us on the tower out on top of the hill, but they're not using it currently. And then they'd be looking to add a second tower in Oakey Park to provide better coverage to the downtown area. That's gonna be a separate contract once they have a site visit.
That'll keep all the angry people happy.
Well, and I'm gonna ask a couple of questions just to educate myself. We're extending a lease and I don't know what the lease entails, but is this a great opportunity for an engineering firm to try to get us a better product for the space we have?
Can you answer that question?
Well, I don't, Verizon's trying to put their best product there.
Are you sure?
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, I'm sure there's a value calculation for the amount of equipment versus the usership.
They're upgrading their tower. We've already approved the works to be done on the site. They were not going to break ground and fix that tower until the lease agreement was signed. So this is going to give them the go ahead to start the project that we already approved.
Are you talking about the actual equipment itself, like the
yeah.
antennas and things?
I'm curious, this is outside my wheelhouse, but is there a way to dictate that, say, if you're gonna occupy our space, you're gonna have a certain level of quality in coverage area or square inches, miles, frequencies, something like that, that would generate us something out of it?
Part of this contract, it'll show you some of the equipment that's on there. And if you're familiar with some of the equipment that's going on there, and they're also enhancing the system.
Can you measure enhancement?
Well, okay. So Rick, of all his work, actually, they have researched, and the engineers that have proposed this equipment and the size and weights of those antennas have also done tests on how much wind it's going to be able to handle. Is the water tower strong enough to handle it?
I get where you're coming from, but
right?
Who's to say a little bit smarter antenna or more equipment in a house somewhere wouldn't get us better coverage in town?
Well, I don't know.
I think that'd be outside the scope of this agreement.
Yeah.
This agreement is given the area of the water tower for X number of years. So we're giving them the land.
That's what I'm
for it.
saying. If we didn't renew this in this space, this rent, let's pretend like this is a retail space in town. And you're only generating so much tax out of it because it's something. All of a sudden that lease comes up, you have open space and you want somebody else that's going to come in there that's going to generate more value and you can charge more for it.
We've worked 9 months on negotiating that price.
In the utilities meeting, Rick was like, I wish he was here to applaud him for this, but he was basically like, I'm not going to re-sign that until this looks better for the village. And so I would applaud him for doing that.
We negotiated that price.
I'm hearing structural.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying 100%. I mean, cell phone coverage in Osceola is not the issue.
Yeah.
Up to 3,000 people is great. As soon as we get a 3,001 person, nobody has service.
Yeah.
That's the issue. It's not a matter of coverage. It's a matter of equipment.
Sure.
and handling a number of people.
And maybe that's a way, maybe this is an avenue, a vehicle that we can do this. I'm not discounting anything that anybody's done, but we've got a great opportunity to maybe steer the small space we have for lease to a better tenant.
And
Maybe
I don't think the lease governs the equipment.
But it takes away the negotiation.
I think the customers are who govern the equipment. So I think that this is an and situation. We can approve the lease to allow Verizon to exist there. And we need to also work as a community to push on Verizon to make sure that they are providing the level of service equipment needed to handle large throughput periods, which is weekends,
This
festivals.
feels like a hammer we should be using.
But in terms of amount, we pushed hard on the yearly amount and the.
I'd take
and
less
the
if we got
escalator.
better coverage.
and the escalator on it too.
Well, I think the monopole going up in the middle of town is gonna be a big,
That's gonna
Should we
help.
tie this to the contingency of the lease?
it's
No.
already underway. I mean, it
Or
has
it'd be a
nothing to
separate-
do with
it'd be
the
a
bluff
separate
tower.
lease that needs a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
because there has to be scope of work, what size you're doing, where's the shed gonna be, where the electricity going to come from. It's important that this one goes forward so the project that's already been approved can start too.
It'd be kind of nice to know if they'll answer the question, how many people, approximately how many people will their tower service? Right? And that's important for a lot of reasons. One, if it's only gonna service 4,000 people, and we know from past experiences that for big events like Wheels and Wings and other things, we need to have temporary towers brought in, these were first responders,
I'm
right?
not sure that a manufacturer or vendor would allow that information to be known by the general public.
Well,
I think
what I'm saying.
that's,
I don't know if that's,
It's
also not
it's kind of trade
unusual.
secret information.
It's not unusual when there are major events. Like if you go to Minneapolis or the state fair, you're
It's the same.
probably going to have a harder time getting. I think that it's just the nature of the beast. I think the decision before us is: do we allow Verizon to put their equipment on top of our water tower? It is up to Verizon to provide
So I'm
a
gonna,
service adequate to its customers, and I don't think it would be.
I'm gonna jump in with a little bit more specific. So I built a building about 5 years ago that had a large enough footprint that they didn't have cellular signal in the beginning of in the middle of the building. There's two systems they put in there. One was a DAS, a distributed antenna system, and the other was an ERRS, emergency radio response system. They do heat maps on it, and they can determine how much people they can handle in that area.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put the right words to it, but I know that there's a way that they can evaluate what the right number is. And if the peak in this town is 10,000 people and there's a certain widget that goes in a telecom room that supports 12,000, but it's not a revenue generator because it costs too much, Verizon's not going to put that in.
Right.
But we have a lease here that we could possibly push to say, hey, it's going to cost you an extra $10,000. We're going to drop your rent for a while because we're going to get better service out of it.
Yeah, but the coverage on that tower area is not related to the complaints we're receiving.
I'm not an expert on that.
It's not,
I've
because I can
watched it.
drive out to that tower and I'm
I get it.
fine,
There's
but
different antennas that
downtown,
are-
it's not covered by
There's
that tower.
different antennas that are available to do that. You can get directional antennas. There's a lot of options out there. We are not the ones to do this.
Right.
That's why I'm curious.
I agree with that comment completely. We are not the ones to
Yeah,
dictate that.
I feel like there's a lever here that we could be pulling to try to get better service.
Well,
And to say that, no, we can't, that we're missing the boat again.
I could need to talk to Rick a little bit more about this next time around. I mean, I think it's almost too late now. Those antennas have to be on that tower, keep service. Yeah, negotiated the price and.
Isn't the lease just to upgrade what's there currently?
No, it's
The
to
lease-
allow them to be there.
It's allowed to be there over the extended period of time. We've already approved the scope of work for the project. The lease of the space is up in July, so they weren't going to do the new project until they had a new lease for the property itself.
Yeah, I think you could probably equate this if you wanted to use an analogy. If you're going to offer a lease to a restaurateur, you don't get to tell them what they serve. It's the same thing.
Pick who you rent the restaurant
You
to.
can pick who you rent it to, but then you'll also have a vacancy if you tell them no. And if there are no other restaurateurs that want to be in there after you say no.
We've been working on lease agreements with T-Mobile
Yeah.
and other companies too. This is not.
Yeah, there aren't any other carriers that aren't represented in town. So if you say no to Verizon, you're just going to have a hole.
You're gonna have to eat the spaghetti.
That indicate that, as part of this agreement, that'll ensure adequate
No,
service for all.
you can't do that. You can't, it's the same thing as if you were to say, as part of this lease
You
agreement,
can write
we
anything
require
want
that
into
you
a
provide
contract. To
good
say, no,
food.
you can't is just
Yeah,
silly.
you can't say that they're going to serve good food.
Yeah, you can write whatever
Can-
you want into a contract.
Yeah, you can, but they won't sign it.
You're gonna
Been
eat the
negotiated by both
spaghetti.
sides to be signed and approved.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when Rick was revisiting this contract, Verizon was like, oh, this isn't normal.
Yes, we
Like-
pushed them, Rick pushed them, SEH pushed them.
Yeah,
It's-
They're
it's
not
been-
used to the pushing that we've already given.
yeah. Well, we're also in a very
I've heard
unique,
structural things and handrails. I haven't heard anything about coverage.
we're in a very unique topographical area. And I think Verizon's finally starting to understand that now. Like, that's why there's been so much talk
I
about
think
these.
too, like the addition of, like up in my house, which is out in Gateway Meadows, we're using the water tower for
Right.
coverage. Everything works fine. It's down in the bowl
Yep.
where there's not sufficient coverage. I don't think if Verizon can't figure out how to get effective coverage during a football game at US Bank Stadium, they are not going to figure out how to give us effective coverage here. That's ultimately up to Verizon and its customers as a customer of Verizon.
Right.
To manage through cell coverage.
Yeah.
Needs, demand, loads, whatever.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Verizon is in discussion with the village to put up a single pole over in the park is an excellent step towards making sure that on normal days, there is coverage in the downtown area.
Increased rent, and we have an assessment to escalate that cost, which was not built into the contract prior. Right? There was no
Yeah.
inflation pricing in
Right.
at all. It was just
Right.
like, yep, this is what you pay us forever.
Yeah, we even
And
got
Rick
them
was
down
like-
from 5 years to 3 years on notification too. So there's
Yep.
been a lot of iterations of this contract.
So in terms of just the lease and what we're looking at and other projects
It's
hanging on
favorable
this,
for sure.
I would say
Ev-
and I don't
everything
think-
looks good.
And I don't think we need to use it as a service vehicle. I really don't.
And I would say, I mean, if I were a T-Mobile customer, honestly, if I were a T-Mobile customer and we were squabbling around Verizon or we were ready to risk losing Verizon, I would be complaining about the impact that that would have on the village budget. Like, if Verizon is going to pay us this, Quinn uses T-Mobile. Should we go and harangue T-Mobile for better coverage too? Like,
we don't
it
need to
really-
because their coverage here is fine.
it really just
It is.
introduces this whole dynamic of
AT&T.
us trying to mitigate what are ultimately private companies' service issues.
Right.
And that's just not our job. Our
so-
job is to lease
Just to
space to
just
people
to
who want to rent
clarify,
it.
I'm not saying negotiate so far they run away.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I don't see anything in here that supports any kind of a quality of service type situation. And again, it seems like an avenue that could have been,
Right.
that
Well,
could be there.
I think it's materials contract and use.
I think
That's
so.
all.
You're right.
That's all.
Yep.
I'd
agree.
encourage you to sit at the table the next time we have to
Yeah.
renegotiate this 3 years from now.
Not on that.
Say, I need a
Think it would be a good
directional
idea.
antenna.
Not opposed to it.
I need a directional antenna downtown.
It'd
So when
be
we
great
look
to
at
have.
board appointments, then in 2.5 years, we're
Hey,
gonna
the-
Contract's longer than that.
Yeah.
3-year contract though, right? From July. Yeah.
Name it cellular, the cellular.
28, Mike, we're gonna
commission.
make sure you're on water sewer.
The cellular commission.
Perfect.
Anybody else have any discussion on the longest topic of the night?
This is a good one, though.
I switched from Verizon to AT&T 3 years ago, by the way. Never looked back.
I would make a motion to approve the Verizon amendment for the contract.
Verizon lease.
Thank you.
At least,
Thanks, Marcia. Thanks, Ron. A motion by Marcia and a second by Ron to approve the Verizon lease. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. That is our other business on the agenda. We have item 7, future agenda items and updates. Neil? Nope. Mike?
no.
Dan?
Just an update, or not an update, just something about the cemetery and all that stuff. If we could get an update sometime in the future as to the progress of that.
Good idea.
I'll just say quickly, they gave us a counter offer, which is nowhere near good enough to come down to a counter offer, so we're stuck there.
Impasse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, did I hear we resolved the parking lot downtown too?
Yes, that's been
Yes,
resolved.
that's done.
Okay.
Village owns it.
Props.
Yep.
Good job.
It's over.
It missed the attaboy list, but
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah, I think that was on the weekly update from last Thursday, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for those again, by the way. Appreciate that. The only thing that I have is that I believe now the deadline has passed for election paper submissions, correct?
Yeah.
And we have currently one standing opening on the board if we don't get a write-in candidate. So if you guys have any feelings or know anybody who would be interested in serving the community in that capacity, they can submit their candidacy for a write-in candidate up until the Friday before the election. So it's the end of March. So that's the only thing that I have. Ron? Marcia? Okay, great. All right. We stand adjourned at 7:25 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, last time I was really cold. This time it's warm.
I got cold for, yeah, it was cold for a while and then it got warm.
The heat kicked on.
I think my pencil's back in charge. I don't even know how you use it.
It works really well.
Screen or what?
Did you have your Christmas lights?
It was kind of a blur.
I've seen you doing a lot of snowmobiling.
I've been traveling.
Yeah.
Lake of the Clouds is beautiful in the winter.
Oh, yeah?
You ever been there?
That's up in,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I've been there.
go in the winter sometime.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that were snowshoeing out there.
Cool.
You really need it. It's packed down. It just would make for easier walking.
Yeah.
That's a really nice view.
Yeah.
I-
It is
like
a
I-
really pretty.
I would think, I thought it was better in the winter than it was in the summer. Because there's a whole bunch of that. It wasn't really frost, it was just snow covered all the trees. So it literally looked black and white. It was really hazy that day too, because we were on the cusp of, they just got snow and there was no coming.
Oh, okay.
I've never used them.
Yeah, the snowmobile season is super short, so I'm gonna try to pound out as much as I can, regardless of the weather. And we didn't have any snow around here.
Yeah. Well, we still don't have enough furniture for the trails to open.
Northern Bayfield County is possibly gonna open.
Oh, how much time?
Plus they got a little base to start with.
All right, well.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Back to the real